it certainly didn't happen in the Alabama game. So I don't know if they'll kind of realize that and try to stretch the field a little bit, maybe take advantage of some of the inexperience with the Utah State linebacker core. But it wasn't something they really even attempted against Alabama. So I think they've got some dynamic tight ends, and they have ability to go down there and make some plays down the field. They didn't do it last week. It'll be interesting to see if they try to maybe see a mismatch there with Utah State and take advantage that way.
Yeah, I listened to your kind of the emergency podcast or whatever you wanted to call it, or whatever you did call it in the airport. And I thought it was funny that you mentioned, it's not really excusable to not get, Juju, involved. There's not really an excuse for not doing some of the things that they are trying, some of the things that maybe could have worked against Alabama. It's kind of the same way against Utah State. I mean, there's really not going to be any excuse, whether it's moving Juju inside the slot or in motion or taking advantage of those tight ends or running backs. I mean, there's got to be something you would think a good coach could find. I'm Mr. Podcast website guy, and I can see that there were some big mistakes. I assume even a first-time head coach and a coaching staff that has quite a bit of experience as in all, if you add up all the years of experience, they've got a lot of experience. I assume there's somewhere something that they can find to take advantage of that. So it'll be fun to watch, I guess. It'll be interesting to see what USC comes up with. Did you get any idea or anything from today's practice or anything like that you think they're going to try to do something different than they did against Alabama? Or
they the practice intensity was pretty high, and I think Juju Smith-Schuster, their best offensive player, was frustrated. He got in 2 scuffles at practice. There was he had to run off, and coaches had to go talk to him. He was not a happy camper, and I think the USC defense was getting in on him. He ended up going to the ground fighting one of the linebackers and had to be kind of escorted off the field with Dory Jackson and stuff. So it was kind of interesting to see that fire. He certainly was frustrated. I mean, he was like 45% of the passing offense last year and only had 1 catch. That was frustrating to him. And they bracketed him. They put a too high safety thing, and so there was always a double team. But you have to be able to take advantage of having those 2 deep safeties other ways, and they just weren't able to do that. So I think, we talked to him, to Clay Helton today about it. He's like, we have to figure out different ways to get him the ball if people are going to double team them. And it's not like it should be a surprise. They're like, they're running a double team on your best player. Are you shocked? And you have no answers for that? But they really didn't. And I think part of it had to do with they just couldn't block anybody. And when the front 4 can generate that much pressure, and your 5 offensive linemen can't block them, I don't know what kind of game plan is going to work, but obviously everything they did not. So I think they're going to realize that other teams are going to be doing that a lot, and you have a first-time starting quarterback. He's probably going to want to try to find your best receiver. If they're taking him away or double-teaming him, you got to come up with some sort of scheme to do something else. And that'll be, like you said, interesting to watch what USC ends up doing if Utah State does, which they probably should do, double-team Juju and make someone else beat you.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody, I guess it was at a practice today, or not today, but this season, and the defensive backs were kind of talking and everything, and he's like, I told them, do not talk to Juju. Do not, he's not a guy you want to talk trash to. So it was pretty funny. So I guess
I might be able to get under his skin, though. I mean, they got under his skin again today. If you fight like that, what he did in a game, he would have been ejected.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that may be interesting. So we'll see. But yeah, it'll be those different. Everybody says there should be quite a bit of improvement, quite a bit of change from game 1 to game 2. So we will definitely see see what happens there, from both teams. On a side note, USC's got a couple Utah guys, so I'm going to make you talk about them. Porter
Sure.
Gustin is a guy that Utah State thought they had a really good chance with. He really blew up in high school, really right before his senior season started. Utah State was basically his first offer, if you don't want to count like Dixie State or somebody that offered before that. And so his coach is an Aggie. His coach graduated from Utah State, played at Utah State. So they really thought they had a really good chance with Porter, but the guy just blew up physically and recruiting wise. He obviously was a big part of the defense in the first game. But what kind of future do you think he has at USC?
Yeah, last year he got some playing time as a true freshman, and you know him in high school. He was like playing basketball, pitcher, and he did everything. I think he's put on about 30 pounds since he's been at USC, and he made the transition from high school to college extremely well. And there's other linebackers in the class I don't think made the same transition and did it as well as he did. He was really splitting time with Scott Felix at what they call the predator position, the outside rush linebacker kind of spot. And Scott Felix is no longer on the team. Porter Gustin took over that role, and he did not come off the field against Alabama. So he was out there the whole time. He played the most snaps of anybody, actually, for USC with that and some special teams. So I thought they might use a little bit more of a rotation and maybe spell him a little bit, but they did not. And so he's really important for this USC defense. I think it was one or two in the team in tackles for the game. Couple times he got in the backfield and got juked by the Alabama quarterback, by Jalen Hurts, who's a really athletic kid. One of the times it wasn't a big. One time I think it led to a first down. Another time he slowed him down enough so his teammates could get him. But tough to do that. Tough to tackle an athletic quarterback like that in the open space. But I thought he's played really well. He's a huge part of this USC defense going forward, and just as a true sophomore.
Right. Yeah. So and USC is almost up to the the scholarships they've gotten back and everything. Is that right, or are they still missing a couple?
No, yeah, they're probably about at 81 scholarship recruited athletes, but they gave some walk-ons, so really up to 85. Mm-hmm. So I think it's significant. It's a deeper team than what we've seen in the past. So it's certainly not the sanction years. Depth should not be the same kind of issue that it's been in the past.
Okay. Yeah, that'll. And Utah State should have. They had a chance last time they played USC. What about going back to the Utah guy? Stevie Tui Kolovatu is a East High grad. Obviously started his career at Utah and graduated and was behind Lolo Lotulelei and now is at USC. So tell us about what Stevie's brought to the Trojans.
It's been amazing. This USC defense lost 5 defensive linemen from last year, and they had a bunch of freshmen that played last year, but they needed someone that was an adult in the room that could be a leader, and I think he comes in there and really could be that guy. He's 25 years old. He went on his Mormon mission, married, and came in and won the starting nose guard spot. So I think he's someone that the other young defensive linemen can really look up to. The fact that he was able to earn that starting spot, I think they really respect what he's able to do. And, he's just been a tremendous help. I mean, he probably was USC's best defensive lineman against Alabama. So the fact that he was a graduate transfer and came in, just been a godsend, I think, for Clay Helton. If this defensive line gets better throughout the year, I think he's going to be a big reason for it.
Yeah, he's a guy even in way back in high school, if you want to say that, And at Utah, he's a guy that I thought was really underrated. It seems like he would go in there for Utah and he'd be completely rested. He'd go in and get to the quarterback or cause some pressure and everything. So he was. I've always thought he was a really good player. So I'm not too surprised with what he's been able to do at USC as well, especially if they were a little bit low on upperclassmen and talent at that nose guard position. And then the last guy I guess I have to ask you about is also Messina. Any news about if he's still on the team? Obviously, just kind of the status of Osa, which is, if true, the reports are not good.
No, they're not good, and he is not going to play against Utah State. So Clay Helton announced that today. He did not play against. He didn't make the trip to Alabama. So, there's still an investigation going on, and there's, it's something where the university is not making any sort of comment.
Right.
But all we know right now is, he can practice with the team. He was out there practicing. He's in class, so he's doing all that. But as far as going to play in the game, Clay Helton's already announced he's not going to be doing that.
Okay. Seth or Brian, should we try to get your audio on here? Can you guys hear us? Or can we hear you? I guess that's the bigger question.
I can't hear anyone else but you.
Yeah. I think that's the case, but Brian, Seth, anything? All right. Well, the majority of those questions were about those Utah guys. I think Brian and Seth probably had some other questions. Seth texted me if you thought they'd move around Juju to the slot and different things like that. We touched on that a little bit, but anything that you foresee changing with the use of Juju?
They could try some stuff, but he feels more comfortable playing outside. They had a couple of different wide receivers, Stephen Mitchell and Deontay Burnett, playing in the slot. They even put the tight ends out there sometimes. So my guess is they're still going to have him playing the X or the Y or whatever, and not have him line up. I think it's the X and the Z. I think the Y is one of the slot ones. All the letters all kind of confuse me sometimes, but I don't really see him kind of being moved like that. I think it'll be more about maybe putting him in motion, trying to do some different things with him, but also being able to free up a double team by having success elsewhere. I think that's what their main focus is going to be.
Right. Okay. Well, we definitely appreciate your willingness to jump on. I'm just looking through. I think we mostly touched on everything. What about the quarterback play? I guess that's the major question that I didn't ask you as well. Is they played two quarterbacks? I mean, partly because it was a blowout. Do you expect any change with that? As far as, is there going to be a short leash if it doesn't start out well? What do you foresee with that?
Yeah, so the plan all along was to use Sam Darnold, the redshirt freshman quarterback, in some special situations, and they wanted to get him live reps. So they brought him in the second quarter against Alabama. I think you're going to see the same sort of thing, where maybe it's a red zone thing. They bring him in, or just here's a fourth, fifth drive. Let him come in and see how he does. But Max Brown is the starting quarterback. I don't see that changing for a while. If the offense continues to struggle, it didn't look like either quarterback was going to have much success against Alabama. It would have to be a situation where if the offense was struggling with Max Brown and it had a lot of success with Sam Darnold, then I think there would be some sort of controversy. But as of now, Brown's a starter, but they'll probably still try to get Darnold in whenever they can.
Okay. Yeah, we'll watch for that. Obviously, like we said before, it'll be